Hello, sports fans, and welcome again to the Fantasy Doctors NBA podcast. This is our second season now. I'm your host, Dr. F. Scott Feil, and as always, I'm running this fast break with Dr. Robert Pagnani. Here at the Fantasy Doctors, we're using our expertise in the world of sports injuries to bring you the most up-to-date and injury-specific information to take your fantasy game to the next level and make the best, most well-informed decisions you possibly can.
Yeah, Scotty, gone are the days of these so-called experts and handicappers throwing darts at the wall and hoping something sticks. It's time to take the information that we have at our fingertips, analyze it, and apply our 20-plus years of experience so you can put together and manage the best fantasy hoop squads week to week. So let's go to the opening tip. So we start off with a familiar name that we talked about all last year. Same name, different place, Isaiah Thomas, right? Point guard. Now he's in Denver. He signed a one-year deal to be a backup, and we're talking about the same thing. It's still his hip. He had the surgery for that labrum. There's no timetable for his return. It's a case where a guy goes from the top of the game to the very bottom. I personally think he's still got some juice left, but it's going to be hard to say. If he doesn't have that explosiveness that his game's known for, I don't think his jump shot's going to save him. If he doesn't get that explosiveness back, could be out of the league in no time at all.
Yeah, it's kind of sad to see, but it's a pretty crappy injury that could prolong, go through the whole season again. It's one of those things that may never get fixed. So tough to see, but we'll have to keep an eye on him. I have a feeling we'll be talking about him for a long time this season.
Yeah.
DeJounte Murray, for the point guard from the Spurs, had an MRI to confirm that his season is over already with an ACL tear. That's just a wrap. Patty Mills gets another lifeline, as well as Derek White, who's now out with a bad knee. The Spurs are hurting early on already. It normally sounds like a small injury, but he's out 2 to 4 more weeks again. Look for newly added DeMar DeRozan to step up as a facilitator. I thought that was a great pickup for the Spurs, but thank goodness, because they're going to need him early on this season. They're already down a couple guys.
Yeah, crazy. I feel like we're almost keeping tally of how many ACLs it's going to be, and bang, we got one already. Seems like the Spurs, we talked about Kawhi all last year. We're already talking about them taking a hit. But like you said, I don't think DeRozan is a bad thing. I think these guys are out of the way now, and I see DeRozan as being a better piece.
Yeah.
And especially a pop run and things there. We move out of the point guard position and go to shooting guard, and we've got him on our list just because we've got to just pay our respects. We're going to talk about Vince Carter real quick. So the journeyman made it out of Sacramento, where we've described that as the place where careers go to die, right? So you cannot keep this guy down. He's now with the Hawks. He's listed as day-to-day with a jammed finger. Played tonight. He was fine, but I felt like we had to just mention it. He's 20 years deep in his career, still plugging.
Yeah, guy's just a machine at this point. Unbelievable. Denzel Valentine for the Chicago Bulls, promising all-around player his sophomore year, but he's got a bad ankle that's taken a minimum of 2 more weeks. We're looking at probably a grade 1 ankle sprain. Hasn't seen much action at all. The Bulls are going to need him to score, bound, and pass. They were one of the laughing stocks of the league last year, so they're going to need him to step up if they're going to change that any.
Yeah, young guy they were counting on to come in and do a lot. And like we said, the Bulls were cursed last year. I hope it's not starting off on the same foot for them. Sticking with the shooting guard position, another young guy that they were counting on to come in and play a big role is Lonnie Walker IV, right? Guy out of Miami, first rounder for the Spurs. Tore his meniscus last week in his knee. Had surgery already. And I saw today he's already been spotted walking around. They're saying 6 to 8 weeks for him to get back. I bet they take it slow given everything they're dealing with. But
yeah, I kind of dodged a bullet on that one without any ligament damage. The meniscus is kind of a quick cleanup, and like you said, get up and walking on it, and hopefully 6 to 8 weeks, and he is back. We'll have to monitor that one closely. Speaking of monitoring an injury, we're moving on to the small forward position. The one that everybody was watching all last year, thinking he was going to possibly come back. We're on playoff watch a little bit, but Gordon Heyward from the Boston Celtics, he's already had a longer season than last year after that horrific injury. They rested him tonight on the tail end of back-to-backs. Specifically, they said they were going to rest his ankle. But, it's going to be interesting to see how the C's roll out, with him this year and just kind of take it easy early on, I'm sure. He's coming from that gruesome ankle injury. So it wouldn't surprise me if they take it easy in the first half of the season, at least with him.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think Danny Ainge probably going to take a book out of Popovich's, or a page out of Popovich's book. You got Kyrie, who finished the season real suddenly with his knee surgery, and Heyward, who never had a season with his nasty injury. I think they're going to really slow play these guys. There's going to be some rest nights quite a bit. They expect big things out of these guys, so I think there'll be a lot of fans that don't get to see the stars every night.
Well, and the East is a bit of a joke now too, right? A restructured East doesn't even have LeBron in Cleveland anymore, so 500 is going to be in the playoffs no problem this year in the East, So I mean, you just got to survive, and then it's on to playoff time. So we'll see how that plays out.
Great point. Celtics probably show up and get 500, this season. So Awesome, good call. Another battle in the East, and another name we hate to mention is the Knicks for you, bud. So Kevin Knox, their rookie, he took a nasty left ankle the other night. And I don't know if you saw it, but I could only watch it once. It was ugly. X-rays were negative, luckily, but he didn't even make the road trip. So we're looking at probably at least a grade 2 on that left ankle of his. They'll probably keep him out a couple weeks, especially with what they're expecting out of him and the promising kind of career that he's looking to have. He was, by the way, one of my first lottery picks to go big last year when we entered our show, and I like him a lot, but tough to see him already starting out kind of on the IR there.
Yeah, for sure. Moving on to power forward. Again, father time, right? Dirk Nowitzki, Dallas Mavs Hall of Famer, is out for at least the rest of October. It's really clear he hasn't fully recovered yet from ankle surgery that he had back in April, so he'll slowly start at some point working back into the rotation. Still got a long uphill battle with rehab to go. They got DeAndre Jordan finally landing in Dallas. Sounds like Dirk will be coming off the bench anyway, so, interesting to see how he'll do this year. Dirk is an interesting fantasy play because, he's feast or famine. He's either going to come off the bench and give you 30, or he's not going to do much at all. So I think at the tail end of his career, you really got to kind of just keep him on a as needed basis on your bench, if that.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, when is going to be his farewell tour? That's basically what we're looking at now. Like you said, he's coming off the bench. Fantasy-wise, I think he's one of those guys, if you've got him, you might trade him because he's a big name to someone who's maybe not kind of up on the day-to-day stuff. But, you're right. One night he's going to score literally probably 6 or 7 points, and then he's going to pop off for 30. So I almost hate to have him on my roster because I don't trust playing him, but I don't trust not playing him. Yeah. So another big man here, JaMychal Green. Here's an interesting injury. Big man for the Grizzlies. He took an elbow at the Hawks game this week, suffered a broken jaw. He had to have surgery on it. They placed pins and possibly plates to stabilize that jaw. With that type of injury, there's definitely no sure timetable. We're probably thinking 4 to 6 weeks maybe. And even then, he's going to come back. He's got to go with the mask, and he's going to have to adjust with that. Now, Memphis presents an interesting situation. Green's a guy that is kind of a 15-minute-a-game type guy, fills in a spot, especially for Gasol when he's banged up. Gasol's already having trouble with his back. He's kind of had to sit out and rest a little bit. So I think, even though he's a role player, Green's impact could be a big deal early on with Memphis.
Yeah, Memphis, surprisingly great team last year, pretty underrated. But again, early on, they're showing some signs of weakness. Some real bright spots that are just kind of not performing up to speed at this point. And it's early, it's still early in the season. But again, you got to think that time is going to start wearing on some of these big men like Gasol and them. So
yeah, Memphis to me was like, I used to think they're Milwaukee. They're these young guys that are coming along, young bucks, all athletes. Well, now all of a sudden they're 10 years, 12 years into their career, and it's catching up, and that window's closing for them. You're absolutely right.
All right, moving on to the center here. Dwight Howard, big man from the Wizards now, is out and not traveling with the team in what they are calling a low back issue. And really what he has is more of a piriformis syndrome, which is that butt muscle that kind of goes across ways instead of up and down like the other ones. And it could pinch that sciatic nerve, which kind of runs out the back, down the butt, all the way down to the foot and ankle. It can cause things like weakness in the legs, numbness, tingling, pins and needles, pain. And it's really a tough one to get on top of when it sets in, especially for these big guys. Again, the taller you are, the longer these muscles are, the longer their connections are from one end of the bone to the other. So, I mean, these muscles, when they spasm up on these big guys, it can be tough to kind of work out. So, and Dwight's not a spring chicken either. He's been around a while. So we'll have to keep an eye on this one. But, sounds like piriformis syndrome there. So got that butt muscle spasm,
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, Dwight Howard, another guy you're talking about, is window closing. You see him on paper teamed up with John Wall, and you think it's going to be amazing. But, year after year, Dwight Howard kind of disappoints. Yeah. He's slowly become – he was a guy that should have been a career 30-15 guy, and he's kind of just turned into a diminishing kind of role player who is consistently on our list. So, tough. Speaking of early on, luckily we've only had a couple big injuries. I look across the list. We see what are the early on injuries that a lot of guys are day-to-day listed on. And what we're seeing is a lot of hamstrings, a lot of ankles, just the minor tweaks and kind of day-to-day stuff. And so it'll be interesting to kind of see as the season goes on how these guys adjust and as their bodies get into better playing shape, how they do. Another big thing we had last year was just a ton of huge injuries. And so we want to just kind of quick do a review of what we're still waiting for, because there's some big guys still out there, some big names that are coming back this year that their seasons ended short last year. One of the guys, Michael Carter-Williams, former Rookie of the Year, right? Explosive guy. Now he's with Houston. He's still working his way back on a shoulder labrum surgery, and there's really been no timetable on when he's going to be able to come back.
Yeah, and I don't think they need to rush that one. Houston's going to be just fine. I thought he was a really good fit for Houston, so it'll be nice to see them when he does eventually hit the floor.
Yeah. Another guy in Houston, Brandon Knight, another guard, got him to be a solid backup to CP3. Could use him this week, obviously, with what went down with the suspensions. But he's still finishing up rehab on a torn ACL. Here's a quick side note. He tore that ACL in a charity game. So I don't know how well that's going over, but we're still waiting to see him. And he's a 15-point a game, probably 5 or 6 dimes a game. He's a good ball player. He'll add to that squad as well when he gets back. We got Boogie Cousins. That's probably one of the biggest off-season free agent signings. The rich get richer, right? Boogie signs with Golden State. If we'll remember, he was having a great year with the Pelicans, tore his his Achilles tendon. So he had surgery, and what they're thinking right now is November for him to come back. Obviously, with as much firepower as Golden State has now, they're not in a hurry to have him back. They'll let him take his time, and he's really just there for probably the playoffs. And then we got your guy. You want to chime in on him?
Yeah, is it Christmas yet?
There it is.
I mean, we knew this was happening. We knew this was coming. With a torn ACL, you're looking at almost a 12-month recovery. So, Christmas Day return for Porzingis. They're saying that that's hopeful. I think that's more coming from him and his camp of rehabilitationists. But we'll just wait and see. But again, it's one of those things where the Knicks aren't in a position to rush him back either. So I think if they can just hang in around the 500 range and maybe a little bit below until Christmas Day, get Porzingis back, get a nice little shot in the arm, and maybe make a run. So we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, good call. Well, now we come to the time when we talk about our top picks for the week. I'll go ahead and kick it off. So I'm going to start on a positive note with the Bulls. All year we pounded on them. I'm gonna change it up, and Zach LaVine is going to be my first pick. Big 6'5" point guard for the Bulls. He's battled injuries early in his career, but he looks to be starting out pretty healthy so far. His explosiveness is back. In the last 5 games, he's averaged 23 points a game, including 33 against the Pistons and 30 against the Sixers. With being on the Bulls roster, as long as you're healthy, you're going to get plenty of looks. And I think he's going to be able to kind of consistently go off and do whatever he wants as long as he's able to. Another guy, my number 2 pick, is a guy that was on our list quite a bit last year, and it's Gary Harris, shooting guard for the Nuggets. This guy had flashes of greatness. He battled injuries, though. He gets a ton of minutes in Denver. He's averaged nearly 20 a game so far this season. Let's not forget, he's one of the Michigan State guys, and we all know about how they play, how durable they are, and how tough they are. He's not afraid of the big show or the spotlight, and that's evident by tonight actually put 28 up on Golden State, and Denver beat him by 2. So I like him a lot. And the third guy on my list, we talked about him already, DeMar DeRozan. You know, the newly added shooting guard for the Spurs, he's going to get plenty of chances now to fit in kind of the new area. With all the injuries that they're having, I see him kind of filling in, probably actually playing the 1. But anybody who knows the Spurs knows that they don't play a true point guard. You know, it's really just a facilitator to kind of get into the offense. He's a 20-game career guy who's put up 28 in his last 2 games. You know, I see them doing a lot of pick and roll, getting the ball in his hands, and he's a finisher. So he's got a good jump shot. I like him there quite a bit. You said it too, Scotty. I think he's a great fit. Pop's going to love him. That's my last guy.
Yeah, man, great picks this week. I think, you know, that end of that Denver game against Golden State tonight was actually an interesting one. They finished that off pretty strong. And then DeRozan, I liked him all last year. Now I think it's even a better fit for him. So great picks. I think mine are going to be very simple, short and to the point. You know, first pick's a no-brainer, the Greek Freak, right? We got to go back to him. I mean, he's playing my Knicks, and they're the lowly Knicks again. So anybody playing the Knicks is going to probably have a big week, and this just works out well early on in the season for the Greek Freak to knock some of the dust off and get back into his old ways. The second pick kind of goes to a safety valve here, the Beard, because after all the suspensions and stuff in week 1, he's going to be the one I think that's going to be out there putting up the points. There's not too many people left to do that. So we'll slide him in as an easy pick. But then my third pick is a guy we talked about a ton last year, new city, new team, Kawhi Leonard. I think it's finally, you know, he's in a place where he's not pissed off for whatever reason. That he was pissed off. He's, you know, got to be ready to showcase his talents, and it's really a put up or shut up time early on in the season for him. I think he's got to show that he's worth, you know, the trades they made and all the moves they made to get him. And, you know, time will tell where he ends up in the long run. But for now, this is a big season for Leonard. So I think he starts off the gate, you know, out of the gate pretty fast and doesn't look back.
Yeah, I love the pick, Scotty. I love the fact that 2 out of 3 of them are in those smaller markets. Greek Freak, dude, that guy's a video game. Yeah. Can't wait to see what he can do. You're right, the Beard, man, just more shots for him down there in Houston this week. And, yeah, Kawhi, you know, you said it before where we're talking about he's in the East. He's going to be able to do whatever he wants. The quad looked fine so far. Yeah. So great picks, exciting kickoff already, man.
Yeah, once again, thank you all for tuning in to Season 2 of the NBA Fantasy Doctors Injury Podcast. We hope you guys will tune in and week out. Thanks for supporting us. And, you know, we hope to truly give you the most value for your time and hope that we can help you make the best, most well-informed fantasy decisions possible. So tune in next week, and we'll keep you guys up to date on what's going on in the injury world.